I've been reflecting lately on the journey of the people of Israel, led through the wilderness by Moses to the promised land. You know, it's such a testimony of the faithfulness of God, and it's as relevant today as it was then. Just before I go on, can I check my sound? Is this okay? Not too loud? Down a bit. Thanks, Ron. Can we turn my sound down a bit? Thanks. Right. How's that? That better? Great. All good now? So it's a testimony to the faithfulness of God, and, you know, it's as relevant today as it was then. The people of Israel were a pilgrim people. That is, a people on a journey. And see, the journey didn't end when Joshua eventually led them into the promised land. The journey continued. Once they got there were battles to fight and armies to other nations to conquer, and, you know, the journey continued. And it continues today. As followers of Jesus, we, his church, are still a pilgrim people. We're still on a journey. In many places in the book of Acts, the early Christians were referred to as the way. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And in many places, the early Christians were referred to as the way, that sense of a journey, of a pathway, of a moving on. And as we immersed ourselves in the book of Revelation last year, there was that constant emphasis of a journey towards the new heaven and the new earth. And as David reminded us so powerfully last Sunday, that journey begins now. It's not in the future, it begins now. In the words of that old chorus we used to sing, Brother, sister, let me serve you. We are pilgrims on a journey and companions on the road. And you know, in the 19 years since Peace Christian Community came into being, we've been on a journey. For example, this is the third physical location in which we've met. And our journey in mission is varied. I began to reflect on some of the privileges in great missionary outreaches the Lord led us to. For a number of years, some of us had the privilege of mentoring children in Scarborough State School, primary school children at risk, through the World Vision Kids Hope program, which was beautifully coordinated by Di Borman. Jeff, you were a mentor, weren't you? And Lorraine, I was. Who else? Anyone else here that was part of that? No, I think, there were a few others. But it was just a great privilege and a beautiful partnership with the school. For 5 years, Peace had the privilege, little Peace, of running a counselling centre. Again, so well led by Daphne Austin. For 5 years, that was a significant part of our mission. Patsy was part of that in a support role. We had Christian psychologists and counsellors serving the community. We supported Mike Smith and Ron Hutchinson in birthing the establishment of the Fringe Church, and more recently what we just prayed for, the Healing Shed, led by Colin, supported by a great team, has become a wonderful expression of mission, the mission of Peace Christian Community. These are all part of our journey. Peace has been on a journey, and each one of us as followers of Jesus is on a journey. We've never arrived and never will till we meet him face to face. And what I'm about to share with you is a little of my journey that hasn't come about, what I'm about to share hasn't come about suddenly, but it's been a journey over the last few years. And it in turn creates a new journey for PCC. So I need to share about this. It was 2 years ago, early in 2021, as I was praying for peace, and, you know, after we just got through 2020 and all that was, and the lockdown and the online, I was praying for PCC. And I started to gain a real sense from the Lord that I was not the person who would lead PCC into her next phase of life and ministry. I sought the Lord for more clarity. It wasn't forthcoming, and so, Lord, I need you to give me more. But the word I got was wait for my timing, wait for more clarity and alignment. Nothing more came during that year, and then in late 2021, as you know, I've shared with you, the Lord challenged me to preach an extended series on Revelation in 2022, and I even started preparation for that. That was November. Then early in December 2021, I was praying and journaling as I often do, and I found myself writing these words in my journal. You will march to the beat of a different drum. So again, I sought the Lord for more. I love the Lord dearly, but it's a real sense of frustration when he drops these metaphors and doesn't give any more download. But in his wisdom knows the time for that, so I sought him for more clarity, and again I gained the sense I was meant to trust him for his timing and alignment, and more would be revealed when the time was right. I was certainly curious and wanting to know what it meant. However, I've learned from experience the hard way, you cannot rush ahead of the Lord. It's not good to lag behind him either, but it's never a good idea to rush ahead, because when you rush ahead, you're on your own. So obviously I couldn't share anything like that with anyone here. It creates a sense of uncertainty. So apart from Kerry, I didn't share those words with anyone, but held them and continued to focus my preparation on the Revelation series and 2021 Christmas in the Shed. You know, that was this December. I just continued to do that. But over the weeks that followed, I continued to hear those words, you will march to the beat of a different drum, but no further clarity. In February of last year, February 2022, Kerry took a photo of both of us, and I love the photo, and I posted it on my Facebook cover page. Unfortunately, if you saw my screen, it's super clear, but you can't see that really clearly there. But everything I say now, I'm going to send to you, not only in recording, but I'm going to send to you the writing of it, and I've put this picture in there. You'll see it more clearly. But it's a photo of us in our living room, and these here, it's a stand, of a light stand, and they're 3 different lights at 3 different positions. So it's lights. That's where I saw lights. So as I said, I posted it as my Facebook cover, and not surprisingly received lots of positive comments. But it was a personal message I received from someone I'd never met that got my attention. One of my Facebook friends, a Christian lady who lived in Port Macquarie, never met her in person, trained her as a coach in coaching 10 years prior, had very little contact. But after I posted that on Facebook, she sent me a personal message. And this is what she said. As I looked at the picture, God highlighted the lights as shoes. I saw them as lights. She saw them as shoes. God highlighted the lights as shoes. He has a new path beside you. Turn sideways and up. You've got this. So I thought, okay, new path beside you. What was the path? What did it mean? No further clarity came at that point, so I continued with life and ministry, business as usual. At PCC, I was focused on, we'd already started our series in Revelation. I was focusing, preparing and teaching that. And in my coaching practice, I continued to see clients and teach in Neurocoaching Australia and the Australian College of Applied Professions, ACAP, where I'd been a sessional lecturer teaching their coaching units since 2017, just a couple of units. However, in March last year, there was a turn of events. I lost a few of my long-term coaching clients. I coach mainly small business leaders, and with the financial challenges of COVID, you know, the challenges, if any of you in small business, that was a rocky time, and unfortunately coaching became one of those non-essentials that had to be compromised, so a long-term relationship stops. And of course the income from those. Then I was advised by ACAP that the following term I would be losing one of my classes due to low enrolments. No other reason than low enrolments. Thus, I was beginning to feel a little bit of anxious. A significant portion of my income was beginning to erode. As you're aware, I'm only paid part-time at PCC. A congregation this size obviously can't sustain a full-time pastor. So I've always been part-time for quite a few years, and so a significant portion of my income comes from coaching and coaching education. Not because I have to, but because I love it. And 12 years ago, the Lord really called me from full-time pastoral ministry into bivocational ministry. The part of my ministry would be in the world as well as here in the local congregation, so I enjoyed it. However, now the income that I was receiving from coaching and coaching education seemed to be reducing. But okay, Lord, trust time. There's always a door closes, another opens. And then in April last year, the following month, something happened that I could not have envisaged. As I mentioned, I'd been a sessional lecturer at ACAP since 2017. Now, to explain what that means, rather than presume that you know, at universities or tertiary colleges, sessional lecturers are only contract for the subjects that they teach semester by semester or trimester by trimester. It's not a contract, it's not permanent. There's no guarantee beyond that semester or trimester you'll teach. So as I said, I'd been doing that just for 2 units for years. Ross is a sessional lecturer at Australian Catholic University. But as he'll tell you, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, depending on when units are offered or not, so there's no guarantee. But what happened in April last year, ACAP, Australian College of Applied Professions, offered me a 1-year part-time lecturing contract beginning May 22. So can you see what's happened? This income going, and suddenly I had moved from sessional to a part-time contract. So apart from being a wonderful affirmation of the value they placed on my role at the college, it was a huge answer to prayer in terms of financial position. So from May last year, I moved from being a sessional lecturer to a part-time academic there at ACAP. So now it just fit into place. I was serving part-time here at PCC and a part-time lecturer at ACAP and was thoroughly enjoying both ministries. I see both as ministry. At PCC, as you know, I continued to immerse myself in preaching and preparation and all the other aspects of Peace's life. And at ACAP, I immersed myself in the additional teaching and student engagements. And yet, I was happy in both. And yet, the sense I first received early in 2021 that I was not the person to lead Peace into a next phase of life and ministry, that sense was growing. And as the Revelation series was beginning to draw to a close, the Lord gave me further clarity on this. I realised in my ministry as pastor of PCC, all my time was invested in sermon and worship preparation, preaching and leading worship, pastoral care, and administration. Now, any church leader will tell you that while these are great qualities for maintaining a church, they in themselves will not grow a church. It is leading a church in mission that leads to growing churches. I realised that all the time and energy I'd given to mission in the early days of PCC, some of the things I just talked about before, and in the previous 2 churches I'd pastored, all of that energy I spent on mission previously was no longer there. At PCC, I was filling more and more gaps, helping out on the sound team, as you know, leading worship on additional Sundays if others weren't available, doing more administration. What PCC needed, friends, was a greater priority to lead the church in mission in order for her to grow, drawing more people into the life of PCC, to be discipled, discovering their gifts and releasing ministry, not a pastor who filled holes and plugs and did more, but to release. The pastor needs to be equipping and releasing people into ministry, not just filling gaps, which I've been doing. As you know, just as an example, you've seen me a few times in the last year work on the sound team, run from the front and do prayers or announcements and run back. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy serving. I didn't mind doing it. But if PCC is to grow and to continue to be this loving and vibrant fellowship community of faith as we are, you need a pastor who will lead you in mission and outreach. In fact, our only new initiative in recent years, missionary initiative, has been the Healing Shed Ministries, and that wasn't initiated by me. It was initiated when Cole and David and Grant came to see me at the end of 2021. They initiated that. I supported it, of course, but they initiated it. And we've seen the fruits of that ministry. Now, it's important to emphasise I have in no way lost my heart for mission. It burns stronger than ever. But what has happened, my heart for mission has moved from the local church congregation to the marketplace. Where I now feel most used in mission is conversations I have with business leaders I've had the privilege of coaching, students I'm teaching, opportunities to be salt and light in the marketplace. I've had many opportunities to share my faith there for those who are seeking, to mentor Christians in how to integrate their faith in Jesus into their business or into their coaching. And as you've heard me say many times, we don't need to mention Jesus' name to be salt and light. The marketplace, specifically coaching and coaching education, is where my passion for mission was now focused. What energises me in PCC is leading worship and preaching and praying with each of you. That still energises me. But if PCC is going to grow and rise into the fullness of all who the Lord is calling us to be, you need a pastor who will lead PCC in mission. So in the latter part of last year, the pennies began to drop. I realised that my ministry in the marketplace, in coaching and especially coaching education, was the different drum. Here is where I was marching to the beat of a different drum. I began to see that new pathway beside me, as per the prophetic word from that lady in Port Macquarie, this was the new pathway. But what about PCC? I love this church and I love all of you dearly, and I then felt a huge responsibility to try to discern who would follow me here, and I began to seek the Lord of who could be a successor here and began to pray and discern and getting nothing, Lord, what's happening here? And in the end, the Lord challenged me, Mark, I never told you to find your successor. That's not your role. You're running ahead of me again. I talked to you about marching to a beat of a different drum and the new pathway beside you. Just as I spoke to you, so I will speak to my people at Peace Christian Community about the new journey I have for them. Thus the Lord was, it's just my personality. I still like to have all my ducks lined up and that, but the Lord was challenging me to stop trying to sort it all out and to trust Him. He, as you know, some of you have been here since the inception of PCC. At every stage of our journey, He has been faithful. And He will be faithful in the next phase. And it all came to a head for me in mid-December, just a bit before Christmas, when I was offered a permanent full-time lecturer position at ACAP, commencing in January. Yeah, this month, 16th actually. And I believe with all my heart that this is the different drum He first spoke to me about a year prior. I believe this is the new pathway He spoke to me about through that lady 10 months prior. And for that reason, at a prayer, I accepted the offer. And as of the 16th of January, I commenced in this role. So this is a new era for me after 33 years of pastoral ministry, either full-time or part-time. And 19 years of that has been here at PCC. It is a new era for PCC. So what does it mean for PCC? As I said, I signed the contract just a bit before Christmas. I'm sure you'll appreciate why this is the first time you're only hearing this now. This was only confirmed a few days before the PCC Christmas service last year. I'm sure you'll agree it certainly was not appropriate to share it with you there. And besides, there is absolutely no way I would share that publicly before meeting with all of our ministry leadership team first. Di was just returning from New Zealand. Albert and Rose were about to head off to New Zealand. I wasn't going to hit Albert with that just before he was about to fly out. It wasn't the time. I needed to sit down with every member of the ministry leadership team first, and also have the opportunity, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, to share with Jeff and Cole and David first. It would be unfair for those who give into this to hear that from the first time from the front here. We needed to meet as a ministry leadership team, which was last Wednesday. Now it's appropriate for me to share with you all. So again, my question, what specifically does that mean? Yes, I've started this role, but I have no intention of leaving anyone hanging. So I will be concluding my ministry as pastor of PCC on Sunday the 25th of June, 5 months from now, allowing 5 months for a process of reflection and discernment and what we anticipate to be a transition to a new leader. With respect to the process of transition, we are really blessed here in that Jeff Lawrence, when Jeff, as you know, he's a retired Churches of Christ pastor, and when he was in the Churches of Christ, Jeff actually received training there on what's called interim transition ministry. And in fact, after Jeff had retired, before they moved to PCC, Jeff and Joanna spent several months in Maryborough Churches of Christ. They were between pastors, serving them in transition. So Jeff brings that skill set and experience to us now, which is a great blessing. And Jeff has agreed to serve you and the ministry leadership team in supporting that process of transition. Of course, I'll still be here during that time, as I said. However, it's really important for you, the congregation, and the ministry leadership team, supported by Jeff, and of course David and Cole, to discern the vision for ministry in moving forward. The place to start, and that's where I made a mistake. I was trying to work out who the next pastor was, but the place to start is, so much for 19 years, you know, I've been, if it's God's vision, but it's been led by me. The first place is not find a new pastor, but for you and the ministry leadership to discern what is our vision for mission and ministry moving forward. I must, in being here to support that process over the next 5 months, allow you and the leadership team to really allow you the responsibility of discerning that. I must release that to you. So as a first step, we are setting aside the morning of Saturday, the 11th of August, to be a time of prayer. And 11th of February. Why have I got August there? Thank you, Jeff. Saturday, the 11th of February. In other words, 2 weeks' time, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon, as a time of prayer and conversation. And Jeff will facilitate that. I really hope you can come. It's an opportunity for you to share and reflect on how you're feeling, because you've just been landed with stuff from left field. An opportunity to share how you're feeling and any insights the Lord may have given you over a few weeks in moving forward. This is just the first stage of the process. I encourage you to come if you're able. It's a really important first step in the process of discerning the new era for PCC. And when I finish here, I'm going to invite Jeff to share a little bit more on this. One of the things I want to assure you is I have no intention of checking out before I check out. I have no intention of checking out before I conclude my ministry. You are so special to me. I have every intention of finishing well here. In those 33 years, I've only pastored 3 congregations. The first one finished incredibly well. My second one did not finish well due to the circumstances under which I left. So I'm determined this, my final one, is going to finish well. And I am so thankful for the ministry leadership team, as I shared with each of every one of them. They were very sad, as no doubt you were sad, and I'm sad. And but every one of them is standing with me and standing with you in support. You have great leaders here. So I have no intention. I'm going to be present here until the end. However, as I just said to you, 2 weeks ago, I began a full-time role at ACAP. So in order to survive the next 5 months, I do need to reduce my responsibilities in peace in order to remain fully present here while committing to my responsibilities as a lecturer at ACAP. What does this mean? This means as from 1st of February, my role will be moving from part-time here to essentially quarter-time. And of course, my remuneration will adjust accordingly. What that means in practice is I will preach a maximum of twice a month. Well, it will be twice a month, unless I'm sick, of course, but I don't believe in that. It'll happen. So I'll preach twice a month. I'll continue to serve on the ministry leadership team and maintain my administrative responsibilities. I'll continue to serve on the sound team as needed. So I will do that. David, Cole and Jeff will preach on those other Sundays as they have been. Jeff, as pastoral care coordinator, will take the full responsibility of pastoral care, including sending out the email letters. That will go from me to him when we have prayer news. Ron Masters will take responsibility for any property concerns. And at this point, I want to pay a huge tribute to Albert, who, as you know, over the years has wonderfully overseen our big property projects. The installation of the kitchen many years ago, the roof insulation, which has made it actually bearable to worship here in summer, the beautiful space we share down the back. Albert has just taken on responsibility, invested into that, and I want to pay such a tribute to him. How Albert is very busy during the week with his business and is not on the peninsula in that time. We need someone who's available if any property issues, maintenance issues arise with all of that. And Ron has kindly agreed to take that on. So, you know, if people ring me, I can... Over to you, Ron. Which is what I do anyway. So Ron said, yes, nothing much has changed, has it, mate? Just official. So Ron will take that on. In terms of worship leading, I want to reduce that from twice a month to once a month. So where Joanna and I had co-led on that Sunday, Joanna has kindly agreed to fully lead the singing as well as the other on that. And of course, Cole, assisted by David Newstead and others, will continue to oversee Healing Shed Ministries. So what that means is it enables me to have, from March, 1 full month free of responsibilities. So even, you know, full-time, that ACAP quarter time, here is that. So I can have 1 month free. So I can just choose not to come to worship on that one Sunday of a month to be energised. So, as I said, I can be fully present on the others. By the way, in addition to sending you the recording, I'm sending the full text of everything I'm sending here. You've had a lot to absorb, so please, you don't have to remember everything I've said. I'm sending this so you can read it. And can I ask if there's anything that I've said and you read that you don't fully understand, please talk to me or Jeff or Cole or David, before you talk to anyone outside PCC, just so there's no misunderstanding goes beyond, I don't get phone calls, oh, you're this and that. No, I didn't say that. So if there's any misunderstanding, please talk to one of us or one of the members of the ministry leadership team, Albert and Di or Ron. And Jeff, as I said, would join for that season. And Joanna, our secretary, thank you. See, this is why I script. This, what I've just said now, is not in a script. So I am so thankful that there are a number of people who will support you during this time, and me. It's a big change for PCC. It's a huge change for Kerry and for me. After my ministry concludes, Kerry and I will be seeking another church community in which to be part of. Friends, as much as we'd love to, we cannot remain here. That would be really unfair for my successor. I've been here 19 years, and as you know, I know myself. I'm a big personality. I know myself. It would be unfair for my successor for me to remain. We need to move on and allow the new era for PCC to be embraced. My dear brothers and sisters, Peace Christian Community is a very special and, I believe, biased as I am, I believe, unique expression of the body of Christ. And while this will be difficult to hear, I really want to encourage you, as a community, you are much, much bigger than any one person, including moi. This is a new era for PCC. It's a new beginning on your journey as a pilgrim people, a people of the way. Just as Yahweh, Jehovah, led the people of old by fire and cloud, fire by day and cloud by night on a journey to the promised land, so the Spirit of God is leading Peace people on the journey to the new heaven and earth. So he is leading Peace Christian Community, as he has faithfully done in the past. So he will into this new era. Over this last few weeks, as I've been praying and this has come together, a great hymn of old, one of the great hymns of faith, kept coming to my mind. We'll sing it before we leave here today. Guide me, O thou great Jehovah, pilgrims through this barren land. I am weak, but thou art mighty. Hold me with thy powerful hand. Bread of heaven, feed me now and evermore. Feed me now and evermore. Open now the crystal fountain, whence the healing stream does flow. Let the fire and the cloudy pillar lead me all my journey through. Strong deliverer, be thou still my strength and shield. Be thou still my strength and my shield. As I tread the verge of Jordan, bid my anxious fears subside. Death to death and hell's destruction, land me safe on Canaan's side. Songs of praises, I will ever give to thee. I will ever give to thee. Amen.
For two reasons can I invite you to stand. The practical one being we've been sitting for a while. The second one being turn to each other and just say, peace be with you. The Lord is with you. Let's have a seat. We're going to pray for Mark and Kerry shortly, and also for the leadership team and just for the community going forward. Mark asked me to share a few thoughts on this season before us. Mark has hinted at some of those things, and I won't share everything that I've written down, but I thought it would be good to give us an idea of the season that is before us and just how we respond. But firstly, Kerry and Mark, thank you. Well done, good and faithful servants. Well done, good friends of the Lord. We will do our best to keep and use the gifts, the fruit, and the life and mission that God has given to each of us, personally and collectively, and to the Peace Christian community that God has given us through your faithful and good ministry. Mark, thank you for your leadership, your vision, your grace. You are a generous, kingdom-centred, people-hearted man. Kerry, thank you, not just for being a support to Mark, and what a good job you've done with that too, but also for the substance and the gifts that you have brought to Peace Christian community. Through you, God has helped make this community such a good people, a good community, a people of grace. I know Mark mentioned about growth, and we usually think of growth as the number of people that are here. And yeah, that's nice. And when we're trying to sort out rusters, we think that'll be even nicer. But the measure of the people of God is their grace. The measure of the people of God is their gracefulness, the gratitude, the hospitality, and the welcome. And the measure of a good church, and I've experienced this personally from Peace Christian community, is that it is a safe place. And it's been a safe place for those of us who've been wounded and hurt, and we could come here and grow strong. This is big news today, sisters and brothers, and right now you're going to be feeling a lot of emotions, a lot of responses and a lot of reactions. And as Mark said, feel free to talk to the ministry leadership team and to Cole and to David and myself about that. Those feelings might be from confusion to loss to sadness, maybe even anxiety or fear, or maybe you're feeling a bit annoyed that Mark has said he's going. They're understandable, they're natural. Don't beat yourself up for having those thoughts. They come. And sometimes the Lord uses those thoughts to say something to us, either personally, why are you anxious? Don't you know I'm with you? To, yes, I'm sad too. Maybe the Lord could speak to you, either personally or to the community, through what you're feeling. Saying, Lord, this is how I'm feeling. What's your invitation? Is there something you want to say or do to me through that? And a good way to say it is maybe you're feeling anxious or angry or resentful or sad or lament or what have you, saying, Lord, I'm feeling really sad. Please be bigger than my sadness. And guess what? He is. And he will be. Joanna and I have been on this journey of the last little while of being pilgrims. Some of you know our journey. And in the last couple of years, we've realised God has called us to be a pilgrim couple. And what we've realised about being one of God's pilgrim people is the destination is not the issue. The destination is not important. What's really important for the pilgrim people of God is who you walk with. And He is with us. The Lord of heaven and earth is with us. And sometimes, like the people of Israel, we need to slow down and keep pace with this 3-mile-an-hour God. Because the one we're with is, in fact, the destination. The one we're with is, in fact, the fulfillment and culmination of all we heard. So sometimes the invitation is just to slow down and think, oh, and be with Him. I'd invite you to share with the ministry leadership team any of the thoughts that you have about what God might be doing and saying for Peace Christian Community. But if you're like me, and it appears also Mark and quite a few of us, that the Lord is going to say, the Lord operates on a need-to-know basis, and it's really humbling how much God thinks I need to know. And it's even more humbling how much He thinks it would be safe for Him to tell me. And if you read through the prophets, Moses, Lord, who am I to go and speak to? Jeremiah, Isaiah, dear Lord, please don't get upset when I say this, but the Lord needs a better PR agent and a better recruitment guy. Because when we say to the Lord, Lord, who am I to go and speak to Pharaoh? Who am I to go and speak to? God says, or only ever says, don't be afraid, I am with you. Don't be afraid, I am with you. Sisters and brothers, Peace Christian Community, let us not be afraid of the season before us, because the one who is beside us is the Lord of the armies. The one who is beside us is, in fact, the King of heaven. So let us be content that in this journey we have someone with us who has overcome. And I would encourage us to stay faithful to who and what God has made Peace Christian Community over this next season. My own experience has been that this has been a gracious church and a safe church. And what I admire so much about Mark is, unlike a lot of people and sadly other pastors, is that Mark is not afraid for other people to be in this church bigger and better and more gifted and more talented than he is. In fact, he equips us and empowers us so we can be that, and he doesn't, nor does Peace, hold people. You've got to stay here. Look what we've all done for you. No, look what God has done for you through us. Now go. Now go. And I appreciate that in Mark, and I appreciate that about Kerry. So sisters and brothers, this charism that God has given us to be a people of grace, of welcome, to be a safe place. So therefore, I'd encourage us in this season to talk safely with each other. If you're feeling perhaps upset or angry or depressed or worried or whatever, talk to one another, but let us do it in a way that's graceful and safe. And whilst we help each other carry one another's burdens, let's not burden one another. So this church is a place where you don't have to park your intelligence at the door, and you don't have to park your feelings at the door. This is a church that grown so strong in the Lord that we can share with each other what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling and what's going on inside me, and to know that the other people will take that as a gift and treat it with respect and treasure it. And that gift, that growth, that grace of PCC will carry us forward, whatever the future might be and whatever the Lord does amongst us. So let us stay this people who are kingdom focused. Now you might be wondering, oh gee, when people go, we've got to give them a going away present. And I know Mark has already sort of given us a suggestion, a new hybrid Lexus. And Lord, But you know what would be the best gift that we could give to Mark and Kerry? Is to continue the graceful way that they have made Peace Christian Community. The best gift that we can give to them would be to continue to be Peace Christian Community. And that will be the best gift we give to each other. Mark mentioned that this is a transition season, and we'll talk more on this over the next couple of weeks and on our day of prayer. But so you know what's before us, and very briefly, the church has already changed. We can't resist it. As someone once said, resisting change is like holding your breath. If you succeed, you die. The church has already changed by virtue of Mark's announcement, because you're sitting here thinking, what's next? What's going on? What's happening? And the way you relate to Mark and Kerry over morning tea will be different to what it was last week. So the change has begun. And we say to the Lord what our sister Mary said, Lord, let what you have said be done to me according to your word. But this first season that we have, as was echoed in that hymn, in the pressing, in the breaking, this is a time of letting go. We begin to let go of Mark and Kerry and their ministry and mission amongst us. It doesn't mean we reject it, leave it beside. We hold on to the grace and the gift, but we let go of this last season and we move to a new one. But before we get to this new season, there will be a time variously called a neutral time, a time of unfreezing, a time of, let me go back to my notes. It's an in-between time. It's a bit like from Good Friday to Easter Sunday, this Easter Saturday time, when there's new birth. What's about to come into creation, you ladies know this gestation time that happens before birth, when God is forming. So this is going to be a time when we let God form in us the new reality of Peace Christian Community. And it's important for us because what we're going to be doing during that time, we just can't call a pastor and say, like if I said to David, we want you to be the pastor, and he says, what do you want me to do? And so I haven't got an idea on that yet, but will you be it? Yes, but what's my key performance indicators? We don't know what that's going to be yet, but we'll tell you when you miss out. So our season before us is saying, Lord, who are you calling us to be? What are you calling us to be? What are you asking us to do, and how do you want us to do all that? And when we know that, as clearly as God wants us to know, we'll be able to say to whoever is going to be the new pastor, this is who we are. This is what God has called us to be and to do. Do you believe God is calling you to that ministry? To put it clearly, if we were to suddenly say God's calling us to set up a soup kitchen in Redcliffe and someone came along and said, actually, no, I want to set up a school, then we would know that they're not the person. So this is what this new, and so your gifts and your insights and your thoughts are going to be very important. And you might think, I've just got a word and it sounds really weird. Like, pack up all your babies and wives and children and go and walk towards the Red Sea, and when you get there, I'll tell you what next. So whatever the word is, share it with the ministry leadership team. It just might provoke thoughts or ideas. The next season after that is what we would call those new beginnings, or as we shared in this song, after the pressing, after the crushing, after the breaking, this is when the new vessel starts to form. This is when we get a sense of what that new wine is going to be. And then the fourth stage is this new season begins. So we could share a lot more, and I won't do that, given that it's 11 o'clock. But to let you know that the ministry leadership team is already praying, already working, already thinking, already discerning to serve you in this season. Aided by Mark, continue to be with us, and all of you here who've got different gifts and talents, and really appreciate the experience that David and Cole will bring to us in that. But also, but you ladies don't feel left out. There's a lot of wisdom amongst the women in this church. There's a lot of anointing on the women in this church. I live with one of them, so I know. This is a church of the priesthood of all believers. And because of that, where everyone has a ministry, then God has given you all what we need to go forward. So please just come forward and share. And we're starting this season of prayer. Now we have something to really pray for. Lord, tell us. Actually, the only prayer you really need to say is, Lord, I don't know what you're up to. Perhaps don't really need to know what you're up to, but just help me cooperate with whatever it is. And at the very least, help me not. This is my personal prayer, Lord. At least make sure I don't muck it up and get in the way, please. But a good prayer that you could say is, Lord, what's your invitation to me and to Peace Christian Community at this time? What's your invitation, and how do you want me to respond? Lord, what are you creating? And what would you like me to do to cooperate? On our prayer and conversation day, it will be a time of coming together to pray for one another, pray for Peace Christian Community, and in what we call a conversation circle, where we just invite people to, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm sensing. It won't be a discussion group, but for each of us to share, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm sensing, and to see what gets created as we each graciously share and give to one another. And then the board will have another meeting after that. When we were praying, there's and I've shared this here with you before, so you'll think, oh yes, I remember that, Jeff, word for word, because of how attentive. There was, yes, David, one of the sayings from the Desert Fathers. A young monk came to a very senior monk who was renowned for his wisdom and his holiness and faithfulness. So he went to, I think it was Abba Isaac, in his cave, and he said, Father, what could I do? I say my prayers, I fast, I do all the devotions, I do all these things, to be a good Christian and to grow in holiness. And I said, Abba Isaac stood up in the cave with his hands lifted to the Lord, and his fingers became tongues of fire. And he said to the young monk, if you want to, you can become fire. If you want to, you can become fire. Lord, may Peace Christian Community be your fire of love and holiness and grace on earth. Lord, let me decrease. Let Peace Christian Community decrease, that we might simply become the fire of your love, and that people will be attracted to that for warmth and for life and for light and for health. I'm going to invite Cole to come forward and to pray for Mark and Kerry. We will be praying a lot more over the weeks to come, and certainly towards the end with Mark's when they finish, but just for this season.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Kerry. Just before I pray for them, and I'm going to ask you to all join in with this prayer. On the way here this morning, I saw a fork in the road, 2 different ways to go. That's sort of fallen into place a bit more, hearing Jeff. Some of the things, natural things that we will feel things that we go through, we can choose to walk that carnal way, the natural way, or we can choose to go God's way. Let him do what he has to do in each of us and in all of us and in this congregation. That, friends, is the way to go. Make sure we take the right fork, not the one that goes on the natural. It sort of fits with the book I've been reading. The difference between the spiritual and the natural. Huge difference. They're poles apart. So it is with the fork in the road. We can go one way or the other. Choose God's way. He'll see us through. Not a doubt.
Amen.
Thank you. You don't want if I anoint you with oil?
Sisters and brothers, let's extend our hands.
Kerry, anoint you with oil. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Mark, anoint you with oil. In the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. Kerry and Mark, you're not your own. You've been bought with a price. You belong to God. You are to do his will. You are his servants. You're moving out to do that. That means leaving this congregation. But he's got better and greater things for you. So, Lord, as these precious couple walk out right now, step out, believing that, Father, you've led them, that, Father, you're taking them on, that, Father, you're going to bless them and bless their ministry, that, Father, you're going to increase their ministry even into, Father, not even what they've imagined, but that, Father, you will take them on, that you will cause them to reach out more and more, that, Father, you will enable them, that you will empower them, that you will move by your Holy Spirit in such a way that they're amazed that, Lord, they've never seen anything like it before. For, Lord, you are the powerful one. And they are your children. Father, your hand is upon them. Father, in Jesus' name, please, Lord, right now, in the all-powerful name of Jesus Christ, I release the power and authority of the Spirit of God, right? Flow through them, empower them. Lord, take them on to the new heights in Jesus' name. In Jesus' name, in Jesus' name, in Jesus' name, in Jesus' name. Mark and Kerry, would you take 2 steps forward, please? Now one more. That's a symbolic act of stepping into what God's got for you. When the times get tough, when those things happen that you think, oh, why am I doing this? Remember this day, you've stepped forward into the things of God, and he is going to empower you and lead you and take you on and meet every need. He's going to be there all the time, in everything. So, Lord, let your blessing rest upon this couple now. We love them so much. And we're going to be sad to see them go. But, Lord, we celebrate with you that, Lord, you love them enough to take them on and use them in even greater things. In Jesus' precious name. Amen. Thank you, Lord.
And I'd like to ask David to come forward and to pray for the ministry leadership team at this time, please. So would the ministry leadership team and the board come forward? Lord, look after the sound desk while one comes forward.
I put it on automatic.
Autopilot.
We have entrusted leadership into those who stand before us, and God calls them into that place. But leadership isn't anything more special. It's just that God calls them to help to bring this group of people, this congregation of people, into the things that God wants, and to help to discern the fingerprint of God upon Peace Christian Community. And for us to help to understand why we exist. And then the what and the how comes after that. The purpose of peace is the fingerprint of God. And so we ask for discernment and wisdom and guidance and direction and courage and strength in the midst of that. So let's pray together. Father, on your servants, these who respond to the call of leadership in your church. We ask, oh God, that you would grant to them and pour out upon them your Spirit. That there would be such a fullness of your Spirit that it would flow. It would flow to those around. It would flow to those with whom they meet, even on the street. And it would be a part of what happens in this community as we walk forward. As we walk forward to hear what it is that you would have us to hear. And I pray over them that they would be like Noah when the pressures of the world would try and thwart what God had told him to do. And I pray, dear God, that they would be ones who would do what's right, even though they might be feeling alone, or we together might be feeling like we are part of that upside down kingdom of God in the midst of a kingdom of this world that rejects and pushes back on us. And I pray, oh God, that they would be like Abraham when you called him out of the comfort zone into uncertainty, but he trusted you because you had the plan. You had the purpose already in place. And I pray, oh God, that as we hear Joseph bouncing back from tough situations, that they would have a resilience in them as leaders, a resilience to be bouncing back, to be stepping forward, and to be determined in their own minds and their own hearts, the place that you're leading all of us together. And I pray, dear God, that they would be like Moses, who would defend their people, who would stick up for the nation of Israel, that they would be ones who stick up for Peace Christian Community. And like Joshua led by example into the promised land, I pray to God that as they come to the Jordan River, and as like the elders came and had to step into the Jordan River and then stood in the middle of the river holding up the Ark of the Covenant as the centre point for the people in their journey, that you would call these your leaders to step into the water and to see the river split apart so that the nation could and the people could walk through, and that they would uphold your word so that the people would see your word as the pinnacle, would be seeing you as their pinnacle, and that they would gain strength and keep walking. And I pray to God that they'd be like David, who wasn't afraid of the giants, wasn't afraid of tackling the strongholds, wasn't afraid of walking ahead and making sure that the enemy didn't have victory. And I pray to God that they would be like Daniel, who was determined to stand for truth, to stand for you. And they would be like John the Baptist, who wasn't afraid of calling it out for what it was, but they would be with love and grace, calling out truth, and that they would be like Jesus, who'd serve and give, not lord over, but come under. And dear God, that they would be like Peter, who would recover from times when they fell in the potholes of life, and they would be like Paul, who would be passionate for what they stand for, and that we together, oh God, would be the ones who would support them. So grant courage, grant discernment, grant insight, grant even though they're fearful, that courage to step forward, and the discernment of what it is that you would have, oh God. So I pray over each of these who are called to lead, that they would lead from under and support this congregation in Jesus' name. Amen.
And I'd like to pray a prayer for you. And as we were praying, an odd scripture came to mind, and that was of Jesus having a bit of time out, having a sleep in the most odd place, in the bow of a boat, with a storm raging. And all the disciples are saying, "Don't you care we're going to drown?" They'd probably say under their breath, carpenters, what do they know about storms at sea? If Jesus thinks that he can take it easy right now, because his dad's got it all in control, and the Holy Spirit's hovering around ready to give whatever helping hand is needed, and what a helping hand that is, then let us be at peace. And let us be the people of peace. And let us talk and share with each other in ways that create peace as peacemakers, as we walk the way with the one of grace. So, Lord, I ask you to bless Peace Christian Community right now. I pray the blessing of the Father, the creative one, who created our world and our church to be a place of delight, a place of nourishment. I bless Peace Christian Community in the name of Jesus the Christ, the Son of the living God, our Saviour, our friend, who's redeemed us and healed us and restored us and brought us back home. And I bless you in the name of God, the Holy Spirit, the Comforter who will comfort us right now, who will lead us into the truth, remind us of what God is doing, and empower us to go forth as the body of Christ called Peace Christian Community. Sisters and brothers, be at peace in the name of Jesus Christ the Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Jeff and David and Cole. Please stand, brothers and sisters, and David, will you please join me here? Let's sing.